We are being mindful of time here with all of this, but hopefully this is something that you find to be really helpful with responding to disruptive behavior. So this is our fifth non-public virtual PD. So hopefully this is something that you can really take back and use. All right. If you've not registered on Frontline, although I'm pretty sure that both of you have registered on Frontline for Act 48 credits, attendance will be taken at the end of the meeting. So stay for the entirety. The recording will be placed on the Padlet for you to view later if you choose, or you could share it out. And then at the end, we'll have a survey as we typically do. And then you can ask questions and be entered for a prize in May. All right, so Amy was our winner for December, so from the other PD. So congratulations to Amy. She won a gift card to Amazon and a book to read with her class. It has a lot of SEL skills in there. Our objectives for today, we're going to do a quick recap of the information we have covered already. We're going to talk about the importance of communication concepts with our students, and then discuss a continuum of responses to inappropriate behaviors as well. You're muted, Jake.
Thank you. Apparently, this is my first time on a Zoom call. Thank you, Amanda.
Welcome. Sure, certainly.
So far, we focused on prevention of behaviors in the form of learning our ABCs of behavior, collecting data, establishing procedures and routines and other preventative measures, and then reinforcement. If you're feeling a little bit rusty on some of those concepts, refer back to the Padlet. We have those live PDs on the Padlet. You can check them out going into the new year. And now we know what you're thinking. What are they thinking, Amanda?
They're thinking the punishment, right? Like, we've done all these good things. Like, what are we going to do now? Like, so anyways, we are going to talk a little about what are we going to do in response to some of these behaviors that we're seeing within the classroom. So we have this little poll for you. So what are some common disruptive behaviors you're seeing within your classroom? I think you can only choose one. I mean, is there an option to choose all of them? I don't know. It could be like all, some of those things. So, all right. So maybe some of those calling out behaviors, falling out. Oh, you can't choose more than one. Okay. All right. That's good. So maybe some of those disruptive behaviors in the form of calling out or not following directions. Super common that those are the things that are occurring within the classroom. So what are we going to do about it, right? First of all, let's take a look at some of these important concepts. Being prepared for misbehavior. We know we're teaching kids, right? There's going to be misbehavior. It's going to happen. So just understanding, like, sometimes the best laid plans, right, can not always go as planned, but really being prepared for the misbehavior can reduce the frustration and annoyance on our part as educators. The correction procedures are only effective if they reduce the future occurrence of misbehavior. We're going to talk about that a little bit too. So the goal of correcting our students is to prevent that behavior from occurring again in the future. All behavior, we know, like we've talked about, is a form of communication. What is that? It's serving a purpose. What are they trying to tell us? Establish consequences to fit the nature of the problem. So we want our consequence to fit the size, really like the size of the problem. You know, if it's something minor, there should be like a minor consequence to go along with that. Implement consequences calmly and consistently. So we want to be consistent, certainly that communicates safety to our students, but then also if we are calm and we're consistent with it, we want our students to mirror our behavior in response to them. And then ideally, consequences should be implemented immediately in the setting in which that occurs. Certainly that's not always the case, but we will absolutely try.
So we're breaking our communication with our students into nonverbal and verbal communication. And just really keep in mind, we're coming at this from a trauma-informed lens. How are we going to communicate nonverbally with our students or verbally? So we're starting off with three different kind of just main concepts. Facial expression, we're really just responding to desirable and challenging behavior with a confident, friendly smile or expression, even though sometimes it is pretty difficult when they are demonstrating this challenging behavior. You're like, oh my goodness, you're pushing my buttons. We're so
mask time was good, right? We missed the mask of like, you can't see what I'm saying under this thing, right?
Yeah. Posture, we're avoiding the arms crossed here or hands on our hips or, just, pointing kind of like that. We're really just keeping in mind that we want to be open. We want to be, a place where our students want to come to and ask for help. Staring, making gestures, we're not going to do those things either. Distance, avoid entering someone's personal space, especially when they're, maybe they're a little bit dysregulated. Like, I know when I'm feeling upset, like my personal space bubble gets a whole like back up, get out of my area. So just like different concepts that we're talking about right now. And communicate the calm is the last one. So, like we're going to demonstrate, even though if they're not, we're still always that person that's demonstrating these types of skills we want our students to demonstrate. Verbally. So that was all our nonverbal things. We're standing in a nice posture. We're friendly smile, even though they may not be demonstrating. So now what are we going to do when we're actually verbally communicating with our students? It's really important not only what you say, but how you actually say it. So no matter what the student is doing, how they're treating you, we're going to communicate respectfully. We're using polite, age-appropriate language. We're saying please and thank you. That goes back to us modeling what we want them to use. Keep instructions concise and clear. We know when the student may be in their emotional part of their brain that's not the logical part of their brain, like instructions, wordy prompts or directives aren't going to work because it's just not they're not getting it. Be careful with humor and sarcasm. I know, like, I work a lot with junior high and high school kids, and and it actually it works. But on the flip side, if in an autistic support classroom with the younger students, it might be just viewed as being mean. So just be really careful with humor and sarcasm. And how you say it, use a friendly tone. It's positive. It's a moderate volume. It's a difference between, Amy, sit down, and Amy, sit down. I said the same things, but just those little inflections in the volume and like the harshness of my tone, you can obviously probably tell the two differences. If the person is behaving inappropriately, keep your tone neutral. And even if the person has, they have this huge volume, it's way up, it's a 10 out of 10, just generally keep your volume down low. We want them, when a student is feeling upset or they're feeling dysregulated or they're, just feeling frustrated, they want it to be us to be the mirror. They want us to feel like how they're feeling. So they might raise the volume and say some things that are not super appropriate, but it's just our job to remain neutral and just be the calm for that student in your classroom setting.
So we're going to take I guess like a little backtrack when we're talking about academics and behavior. So, a lot of times we're approaching academics in a way where if a student is demonstrating a deficit with, let's say, reading, they're struggling with maybe like the long E at the end of a word, and we're saying, oh golly, like Jake really isn't getting this, so we've seen Jake's work, we're going to pull him maybe for a small group, we're going to work on that, we're really going to focus on that instruction, we're going to provide different opportunities for him to maybe display understanding in many different ways, and then we're going to reassess to determine if Jake has learned that skill or not. So we do all of these different things and put these interventions in place for our students with our academics. But sometimes with behavior, we're really assuming the student is just failing to cooperate. They're just being disrespectful or they don't want to do it. So if we say Joey continues to, we talked about calling out. Joey is calling out and I'm saying, Joey, stop calling out. If you call out one more time, you are missing 5 minutes of your recess. Oh, so am I assuming that Joey just is refusing to cooperate? So with this, we can really think about, well, can we go back to that drawing board and say to Joey, okay, we're going to provide the explicit instruction for Joey and teach him when it's appropriate to raise a hand. We're going to point out the good when Joey is raising a hand. We're going to provide reinforcement. Hey, great job, Joey. I'm really proud of you. So we're providing some of that reinforcement, just like we would with the academic part. We want to do the same thing with behavior. Okay, I think we're good with that. If you have questions, you let us know. You can put in the chat. One of us is monitoring this somewhere. All right, we're going to look at this continuum of strategies to respond to inappropriate behavior. And Jake's going to start talking about this, but we're going to go really from the least invasive to the most invasive. So really, we want to start with some of these minor ways of gaining student, what's the word I'm looking for, Jake? Getting student attention, maybe trying to
Compliance.
get students on task for compliance. Yes, thank you.
There you
Okay,
go.
so we're going to start with this. All right.
So the first kind of strategy within this continuum is planned ignoring, and it sounds exactly what it sounds like. We're going to ignore the student behavior, especially when that motivation is attention. And I'm thinking those calling out behaviors like Mr. Graham, or what are we doing? What number are we on? We're simply planned ignoring. We're paying more attention to those behaviors that we want than the behaviors that we don't want. So that goes back to setting up those routines and procedures from our previous PD from December. We're providing no verbal or nonverbal attention that I just talked about to the undesired behavior. I like to sort of just like use my peripheral in this case. Monitoring the classroom, and like you can kind of see what they're doing, just kind of like keep a little tab on them, but we're not looking at them. We're not like giving them nonverbal. We're not like level 0 or whatever it might be. Provide discrete attention to individuals nearby demonstrating desired behaviors. We're still going to give that attention to those desired behaviors, like whether that's a thumbs up. That's why the social praise, going back to that rapport for our students, is super important. And then, once that maybe that undesired behavior stops and the student is engaged in that desirable behavior, we are providing immediate, like, yes, way to go, thumbs up. I'm so impressed with you. You're really on task. We're really, really, really honing in on just providing as much attention as possible to that desired behavior.
Physical proximity. Using teacher proximity can really communicate awareness, caring, and concern. Oftentimes when we're maneuvering ourselves around the classroom, we see that student that's off task. Us moving around the environment is really helpful for some of those students just to get on task. I know, like, whenever I was in class, like, I'll be sitting there doing something, and maybe if I'm texting or something, the teacher comes over, I'm going to kind of put that away, right? Because I don't want them to know that I'm not doing, or that I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. This helps redirect the student back on task in a respectful way. A lot of times we don't even have to use our words. It's just our presence there. The teacher becomes more accessible for those students, maybe if they need some assistance or maybe they're confused, which is why they're distracted. And it really just provides us with an opportunity to help support those students as well. We have direct eye contact on here too. The teacher look, like the teacher look, like you get this like the stare, or the mom look, I've got that too. But we can have that look to get the attention and non-verbally prompt our students to task. I was telling Jake a little bit ago, I do this with my son. Like whenever we're at my younger son, he gets very upset if he's called out in a group of people. He's very easily embarrassed. So I might give him the look, and then I'll use the nonverbal like stop. So like we use some sign language. So stop it. And he knows he better stop. So really it's just a way of like having that nonverbal signal with our student in order for them to understand what we are expecting of them. With some of this emotionless, expressionless stare towards misbehaving students as an alternative to yelling or threatening. The purpose is to stop those simple disturbances from escalating while minimize disruption to the rest of the class. If we're calling out a student in the middle of the classroom, that causes everyone else to look, which can kind of get them off task too. And then signaling our nonverbal cue. So gestures to prompt a desired behavior. Oh, you know what? I think I was giving you 2, and I gave you like a 2-for-1 deal on the last one. I was ahead of myself, you guys. But those gestures that I was talking about, like our nonverbal stop or like a no, those kinds of things can be really, really helpful for our students. When a student is losing attention and focus during times of instruction or independent work, or as a form of redirection from misbehavior, talking, or off-task behavior, this does create a working relationship with a student without calling attention to the student negatively. This is something super discreet, it's quick, and it does save us on our instructional time.
Just to add to something, and something I did constantly be in my job before I was at the IU, we did an eye level volume. And it was like a 0 was completely silent, 1 was whisper, a 2 was a group, and a group work, and a 3 was, I don't want to say it's a free for all, but like recess voice. It's something so simple, and you can check it out, or we could add it to the Padlet, or just shoot us a little message and we can add it to it. But that would just be like a perfect example of like, we're working and Amanda's being a little chatterbox, and I just give her like one of these, and just like a simple reminder. I'm not calling her out, not drawing attention to it, like to the whole entire classroom, and it's just that quick reminder. Our next one is a behavior specific praise in others. And that's really just, again, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, just really just honing all that attention in on the students demonstrating that rule and the expectation of the behavior, but tying it into your classroom rules as well. Amanda has an example here. Billy, you're really focusing on what you're doing, and you, Janet, your pen hasn't stopped writing. So again, if we're giving all of that behavior specific praise and all that attention to those students, our goal is really that, little Timmy who's not doing the expected behaviors is to kind of jump on board. It says here that they'll most certainly want to receive some of that praise too. And then once we catch them doing that, you better lay that on real thick for little old Timmy there. Sometimes, just a read for the next part of the continuum, a redirection is necessary. It's just a quick in the moment strategy. You're giving them getting your students' attention without making a big deal about it, using that calm tone that we talked about earlier. And you're using language that's clear and concise. So maybe, I'm thinking little Timmy's out of his seat, Timmy, we're out of our seat. Our expectation is when we're doing our silent reading, we're in our seat at a level 0 to show respect for the other students. So, I said what we're kind of doing. I said what our expectation was, tied it to our classroom rule, and then that just leaves less room for confusion. Our next one is reteaching, teaching content again that students have failed to learn. That goes back to that sort of like putting our thinking brain piece on that Amanda was talking about. If, especially if it's like a consistent disruptive behavior, we're going to state and demonstrate the expected behavior. I'll go back to that simple 101 example I just did, Timmy, we're out of our seat. Where I'm expecting right now is for you to be sitting in your seat, reading your novel at level 0. Have the student demonstrate. Maybe I'm like, do you think you can demonstrate that for me? I always, peer modeling is always a huge, powerful tool where you're like, who thinks they can demonstrate this for the class? Susie raises her hand. Susie, can you show us what's expected when we're sitting at our desk? And Susie does it, and she's reading, and she grabs out her little novel, and she's sitting quietly, and she has a little smile on her face. And you're like, absolutely, this is so fantastic. High five, Susie, or hey, here's a pause ticket. And you know what? I might give another pause ticket out, or a token economy system, or whatever you might use in your classroom. I might be giving out some, a couple tokens or bucks or gram dollars for for whatever you use in your classroom for students that are demonstrating these expected behaviors to provide that immediate feedback.
Okay, so our next part here is really, I hope we're not going too fast. We've got a lot of stuff on here, you guys. Praise approximations. So this is really a big one because we typically want our students to go from, maybe the calling out to automatically raising a quiet hand and waiting for help. So we're going to just back this up for a second. So if our problematic behavior, you can see over here, is calling out, we might say like they're looking for attention. Maybe it's from the teacher or from peers in the classroom. We say that we want to see better behavior before best behavior. So if this student is calling out, I'm going to say like, well, maybe they start to like, they're jumping up and down, Mr. Graham, Mr. Graham. Okay. We don't have best behavior, but we have better behavior. The hand is still up. We want to shape that behavior. So we might see maybe the jumping up and down and calling out, but the hand is up, right? So we want to praise that. I love so much how you raised your hand. I'm looking for then we can work on a quiet hand rather than a jumping up and down and yelling. The same thing with cursing. Maybe it's an escape activity because whenever they say a cuss word, they get sent to the office. A better behavior would be using alternative inappropriate words. So rather than saying maybe a curse word, they might say, this sucks. Okay, well, we don't like the word sucks, but like, thanks so much for using your words to tell me what you need, right? Maybe the best behavior would be like, this is hard for me, or I need a break. And again, with inappropriate comments, maybe they're looking for some pure attention. Better behavior would be calling out maybe a more appropriate comment, as far as maybe something that's related to what the content is, rather than saying like, I drove to Europe. Did you drive to Europe? Like in the middle of a spelling test, right? Let's ask a relative question. Can you repeat that question for me, right? Something that would be semi on task here. Okay, our next one is specific error correction. And Jake kind of talked about this, and this can certainly be used whenever we're providing that redirection to our students as well. So without going through all of this, because it's a lot, however, this is a super great step-by-step for you. It's a great visual too, just as a reminder of how to provide error correction. And it's really, it's quick, it's in and it's out. So contingent occurs immediately after the undesired behavior. It's specific. It tells the student exactly what they are doing incorrectly and what they need to do differently. And then it's brief. We're going to get in, like I said, get in, we're going to get out. My husband tells me this too with my kids. I tend to harp on them sometimes. I mean, anyone else feel me as a parent, but like, he's like, Amanda, just like calm it down. Anyway, all right. So for an example, after a student calls out in class, the teacher says, please raise your hand before calling out your answer. That's being respectful. So it's in the moment, we're talking about it, I'm giving the expectation, and it's super quick. So then maybe the next time I'm looking for a quiet hand, as soon as that student raises a hand, we're calling on them. Hey, thanks so much for raising a quiet hand. We're going to high five that. We're going to provide that reinforcement because we want the desired behavior to be displayed more frequently. I'm not going to go through the other one here, but a non-example, how many times do I have to tell you to work quietly, right? Let's point out the appropriate behavior in the other students. Oh, I can see Jake is working quietly. I see Michael's working quietly here. Nice job, Ellie. We're pointing out the appropriate behavior. And then as soon as we're seeing the appropriate behavior from the student, hey, great job. Another non-example, why are you talking when I'm talking? Sometimes those why questions are like, I don't know, because I was bored. I didn't like it. I was talking, right? They don't know. They're just talking because they're kids, right? They're going to talk. So we're going to say, rather than asking the question, they probably don't have an answer to, you're going to say like, I need you to stop talking, or I need you to have level 0, quiet voice, whatever that is. And do you want me to send you to the office? Well, maybe it's during math class and they don't like math class. They're like, yeah, I want to go to the office because I don't do my math. So we have to think about how we're saying things. How can we change what we're saying in order to maybe elicit a different response from our students? Oh, and then the 3 R's. Anyone ever see this before? Our regulate, relate, reason. This is something we recommend a lot to our students. You know, whenever Jake was talking a little bit ago about how our students, when they become dysregulated, they're not in their thinking brain. When they're up here, they want us to join them up here, right? It always feels more comfortable to be angry when someone else is angry with us. But in the classroom setting, really, it's important to have that student be regulated. We're not going to get anywhere if they are yelling or they're very frustrated. We're not going to get anywhere with that. So the first thing that needs to happen is they need to be regulated. They have to be at their typical, like, I'm gonna say like calm behavior, because not all students are calm, but their typical behavior, baseline. So we want them to be able to regulate. Then we can relate with them. Hey, that seems like really, really difficult. Like that was really hard to do. Like, I'm proud of you for like sitting with me or talking with me. It must be really hard whenever, like whenever Joey like says something like that to you, right? So we can kind of like relate to them, and then let's reason with them. So what can we do? Like sometimes Joey says things and maybe he doesn't understand that it's hurtful when he says those things. What can we do maybe next time and try to really reason with them to come up with a better response moving forward?
Another strategy we can use on that continuum is providing choice. We always talk about, and another training we do is, we wake up, we decide what we want for breakfast, we decide what we're going to wear, we decide what radio station we're going to listen to, if we even listen to one. It might just be like driving to work in silence. We have all these choices.
Podcast, a
Or
podcast we're listening
podcast.
to.
And students and children really don't have as much choice as we do as adults. So sometimes just giving them those choices, or even if it's not exactly a total choice, like they think they're making a choice, not to be deceptive to students, but maybe that's accomplishing the task in another location. We're gonna complete this independent math work underneath our desks. Sometimes just a change in scenery, or getting up and moving, or changing the order of task completion. If you want to, hey, you want to use your green smelling marker to complete your spelling, like practice your spelling words for this assignment? Absolutely. Just giving them those simple choices, a blue pen or a black pen, or this pencil, or this magic snowman pencil. Sometimes just offering a different type of activity that accomplishes the same instructional objective as well. That's just,
Yeah.
again, we're just providing them those choices to complete the assignments.
Mhm. Yeah, and we call it like the illusion of control we've talked about. So they think that they're in charge of it, but really they do have a choice. Like it doesn't really matter how they're completing an assignment as long as it's getting done. Especially if we're focusing on the behavior, we need compliance. That's what we're looking for, is the compliant part of it.
The next part of the continuum is a conference with the student, asking the 5 restorative questions. This is something that I do constantly within my social emotional learning role within the IU. And it's really just sort of getting to the bottom of what happened, what the student was thinking, like maybe what are they thinking now? Maybe there was some sort of misinterpretation, like Susie knocked my book off the desk. Well, no, Susie was just a little bit clumsy and she accidentally elbowed your book off the desk, which prompted you into like screaming at her and saying, like, what? So maybe it was a misinterpretation. It's just like a reflection and it's restorative. I don't want to say restorative circle, but just like a restorative time to see what happened and then just maybe giving them some coping strategies or maybe just to see like how their actions affected somebody else and just what are we going to do in the future. We have the little Padlet symbol at the top there. Added a resource for you guys if you want to check it out within the Padlet as far as just like the restorative questions, and it has visuals as well. Just, how are you feeling now? And it gives you some like little faces that the student can select. And it's just a simple but pretty powerful tool that you can use. It's just important to describe the problem and the alternative behavior that we want to see. Why we want to see this, and then practice it and give it feedback, not necessarily like in the moment, but during another time that the student is regulated and in that baseline that Amanda was talking about behavior, and just really reinforcing it and practicing it in different contexts as well is important.
Okay, we talked about all those things like we can do, right? But now look, what about the punishment? Like, what am I gonna do? So here we go. Here we go. We're bringing this all full circle, you guys. With punishments, really. So our whole goal is to be preventative in nature with the things that we're doing within our classroom. So 80% of the time we're focusing on prevention. 20% of the time we're focusing on the inappropriate behavior, the response to inappropriate behavior. So as much as possible, we are trying to, I'm not trying to say like we're avoiding all of these. We certainly can't avoid everything that comes up in a day that's going to cause frustration or problematic things with our students. But when we get to this point where there needs to be some sort of consequence in the form of punishment for our students, there are a couple things that we can look at. So we have positive punishment and negative punishment. And you're like, well, what's a positive punishment? Overall punishment makes the behavior less likely to occur in the future. So if we are constantly, like, let's say, for example, well, Joey is doing something wrong in class, and for whatever that behavior is, he's losing recess, and he loses recess, and he loses recess every day, and he doesn't change it. Well, so if we are seeing this pattern of behavior where the behavior is occurring, recess isn't helping, we need to go back to the drawing board and say, like, what is something that's motivating for Joey that's going to change it? If taking away recess isn't motivating for him, it's not going to change our behavior. So we have to kind of get creative in this. And if you need help with it, we're happy to help and brainstorm things. We like doing this kind of stuff. We want you to reach out and so we can help you. So call us. Anyways, sorry, you guys. All right. Positive punishment. In this case, we're thinking mathematically. So positive, we're adding; negative, we're taking away. With a positive punishment, we might be adding in a chore or responsibility, something they would have to do. If they spill the glue on the table, they're going to clean it up, right? It's a positive punishment. We're adding in a responsibility as a result of what had happened. Maybe it's a small group addressing the behavior of concern. If they're struggling with their relationship skills and they're constantly being redirected because maybe they're taking something from a friend or they're just not being kind, maybe we can add in a small group, maybe for like a week or two, just to try to like practice some of those social skills, some of those turn-taking skills with our friends. Maybe it is a verbal reprimand. We're providing that verbal reprimand. Maybe it is a conference like we talked about, or maybe they're writing an apology note to someone for something that happened. On the other hand, negative, so we're taking something desired away to make the behavior less likely to occur in the future. So maybe we are providing that timeout. Maybe they are losing a privilege, like if it is, or maybe it's a Chromebook. Think about those things that are highly motivating for those students. Maybe it is that planned ignoring. We're taking away attention from the student for the inappropriate behavior, or it is a loss of a privilege. And again, we can actually put in like a little not like a survey, but like a little checklist for you guys too on the Padlet for what are some things that we can really think of for motivators for our students that could be helpful in determining, you know, what's gonna motivate them. So, in conclusion, really just being aware of our body language. How are we communicating? How is our body language coming off? What does our face look like? And I check mine too, because sometimes I look mad, but I'm not. Look for the good every day. Connect with those students. Those relationships that you have in the classroom are ones that are going to be so vital for our students, especially, you know, those students who are maybe demonstrating problematic behavior. They're probably the ones that need the love the most. You know, they're the ones who are reaching out for it in the most undesirable ways. Um, those academics and behaviors are closely linked. So think about the behaviors in the same way you would academics, like, oh, what things can I put in place, or how can I reteach this skill to have a more desired outcome tomorrow? And if you're not sure about what to try, like try a strategy. Sometimes it's you know, trial and error. But you know, pick something and give it a little bit of time. Sometimes we'll see behavior increase as a result of trying something new, since there's a new expectation in place. I would suggest print off the continuum of strategies. It's a great visual reminder of like things you can do kind of as you're moving, you know, moving through. If you have questions, email us. We are happy to help. We want to be a support to you. We have all kinds of goodies in the Padlet. Here's some things that are in there. And if you have questions, we are, like I said, really, we are truly happy to help you with anything that you may need in your classroom. And if you do need anything, I know we're kind of in the process of revamping a couple of things here, but if you need help or support with students, or you're seeing problematic behavior and you're just like, I don't know, we would help. So just let us know. We are happy to take behavior coach referrals. You know, so we're glad to do that too. What questions do you have? Does anybody have a question or?
Okay, I just added the survey in case your QR code for some reason on your phone isn't working, and it's also I also provided the Padlet link. And it's kind of just to piggyback off what Amanda said, like if you know a colleague, please refer them to you know the PD we're giving, or just send us an email. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, we're happy to help.
Happy
Any
to help.
questions from anybody?
Ooh.
Okay. Well, if that's it, we have the information. Jake put the information in the chat for you. But if that's it, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you coming. If you have any questions or anything, let us know. Do make sure you fill out the survey. We'll do another drawing in May for that.